Good evening and welcome to TalkSports, our midweek program where we speak with the movers and shakers in sports, the sportsmen, sportswomen, uh, administrators, coaches, to the guy, someone who directly or indirectly involved in sports. Well, as indicated, this evening we'll be looking at the just concluded Junior CARIFTA Games, which was staged in Kingston at the National Stadium in Kingston, Jamaica. And with all the doubts, and remember, it was the first time in 3 years, so there wasn't any CARIFTA Games in 2020, neither last year. So it was almost imperative for our young athletes of the Caribbean to get into competition and start competing. Okay, and the Junior CARIFTA Games, as many folks throughout the Caribbean and wider afield look forward to on the Easter weekend. And no doubt, the Eastern Caribbean, including Grenada, had a very good showing, as we will say, for the CARIFTA Games. The British Virgin Islands, Antigua, St. Kitts, Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent, they had some fair share, I should say. Despite the usual Jamaican dominance, we saw that the smaller territories had some very commendable performances. Not forgetting Hodge from the British Virgin Islands, no doubt, and our athletes. Because in the Grenada case, for example, unique in itself, because and we hope to speak to both father and daughter. Um, that's the Augustins, as we would say. We hope to speak to them and get that, their feedback. Because what is so unique about that is, in the case of Shantae Augustine, her first CARIFTA Games, and no fault of hers, even at her age, is the first time, and you know all that happened over the past few years regarding intercall, regarding no CARIFTA Games, etc., etc. Very determined, and she made it to Jamaica, finished, fifth in her very first CARIFTA Games, and you can see that there's a lot ahead for Shanti, and she will just get better and better and better. Okay, and it's a good opening for her, so that obviously she, as well as her coaches, and things, they will actually gauge, where she needs to be at, what she needs to do. But it was commendable, and yeah, so we'll have a chat with her as well. Our usual panel, of course, Rudian joining us from Toronto, and as I said, Roger will also join us in a while. Roger Augustin is almost like the lone Grenadian supporter, the lone Grenadian supporter in at the National Stadium. You know, I recall some, many years ago, I, traveling to numerous CARIFTA games, and always been a situation where you wonder where you would see the Grenadian, the unique Grenadian supporter. But somehow Roger was able to make it on TV, regional TV, and he got a couple seconds of fame, yes, no doubt. So it was worthwhile. It was worth the while, I should say, for him getting to Jamaica. But and by the way, and not only supporting his daughter, but supporting Team Grenada, and by large supporting the CARIFTA Games. The hope is that, and I saw some discussions on the social media. The hope is that more Grenadians can start making the trek. It's Bahamas next year, for example, 2023, the 50th anniversary of CARIFTA Games, the 50th anniversary of the Bahamas in terms of independence. So a lot in store, and it's probably the best time to start putting things in place to journey across it. So our conversation tonight will review the performances as well as look forward to what needs to be done going forward. Nazio John, I'm seeing Nazio also. Nazio John is joining us again, his final year, and what a performance from Nazio. All that he went through, and you know, Nazio will speak with us as well. So lots in store. But let me first of all say good evening to my good friend Roger Augustine. And by the way, Roger is no stranger to Talk Sports. Well, the first time you see him on, but he has always been a supporter of Talk Sports and been, providing little insights and things like that. So, Roger, good evening to you and welcome live for the first time, Talk Sports.
Good evening to you, Michael, and good evening to your listeners wherever you are around the world. Thank you for having me on TalkSport.
Right. And first of all, let's talk about the whole experience of the character games. We don't want to go back too much about the past in terms of getting there. You got there, right? We know all the troubles that got you, but you got there, and we want to um, talk now about the whole experience of character games in Jamaica.
All right. Well, first, let me just say thank you to the National Lottery Authority, and because they really helped me getting to the games, and also Miss Petra Roach, who was very influential in us getting to the games, the CEO of the Grenada Tourism Authority. Now that I've said that, let's talk about the games itself. Michael,
Mhm.
I think without a doubt, this CARIFTA Games 49 will go down in history as to showcase that the Caribbean, and I'm not
Mhm.
saying just Grenada or Jamaica or the BVI, the Caribbean have, if not the best attractive looking sprinters, junior sprinters in the world, that track and field is going to be in a good place in years to
Mhm.
come.
Right.
What you have seen and witnessed at the 49th CARIFTA, um, if anything else tells you, um, one, there should be more international meets in the region.
Mhm.
Two, the athletes of the region deserve their spotlight with the type of performances that they're putting out there, and and three, um, the welcome in Jamaica was wonderful. I thank them for that. I'm looking forward to the Bahamas. The games were nicely laid out in terms of how they ran off the games. The medal ceremonies, there was no interruptions really with the on field
Mhm.
assignments and as such, and I can see why Jamaica is referred to as the sprint capital of the Caribbean.
Right. Well, folks, just to let you know, as I indicated, also with us tonight, we also, as I said, Nazio is with us. His father, Fernando, also with us. Rudy is with us. And Shante has also, well, she had, she, she was on for a while. So Shante will be joining us shortly as well. So we really loaded tonight, and we really have to get some of that the feedback from those athletes. By the way, you might find Rogers and Shanti, background a bit dark, but he's remotely. In fact, Shanti is about at the point of arrival at the Morris Bishop International Airport. Roger is there. He came in probably a bit earlier or sometime last evening or what. But yeah, I think last evening, and he is there to pick her up. So that's why you see in the background a bit dark. But let me go to Nazio and welcome Nazio John, um, one of the star athletes, no doubt. Nazio, all that you went through for to get to Kingston, Jamaica. And Nazio, no doubt, likes to give us that smile. Is the guy who takes everything, you know, I would say he takes everything very serious though. But even though he's smiling, he takes it very serious. Nazio, let's talk about the experience that I spoke to Roger, who as the father and slash coach, mentor, everything there for Shanti, and one of Grenada's number one fan who got to Jamaica. What was the experience like, Nazio? Not your first time at the CARIFTA Games though, but certainly your last competition, last experience at CARIFTA Games. What it was like?
It was actually very fun, and it was very welcome. Like the people, the atmosphere, it was very welcoming. The competition was fierce. Like everything was good. The experience was amazing. The way how the teams, like all the teams, when was the last time all the Caribbean teams were hanging out, getting along, no drama, nothing. It was overall a good experience.
Mhm. And when it comes to competition, the competition itself, what it was like.
The competition was it was
By the way, before you talk about competition, Nazio, can you tell us whether you the 100 or the 200 meters your favorite event?
oh the 200. The 200 is my absolute favorite.
Okay, so no love lost in terms of missing the 100.
No, very much there's very much some lost love. I
Okay, good to hear that.
I love the 200, but I also love the 100.
Mhm.
But the 200 is my favorite.
The favorite. Okay then. Stay right there because we're seeing on the side that's Shanti who is there. So that's Serena also. I think yes, Serena is also in the background. There she's smiling. you know. yeah, she seems to be shy. But Shanti is with us and Shanti, I spoke to Dad earlier while he was waiting on you. I know you were doing your big CNN interview, um, let's talk about the experience, Shanti. Getting to compete with, and for the very first time, getting to compete with these athletes. These I wouldn't say internet, but your regional colleagues who no doubt will be going on to stardom later on. Um, Shanti, what it was like in terms of the experience?
Well, first of all, it was a great experience getting to bond with the team and making
Mhm.
memories as well as new friends.
Right.
In terms of the track, it was a learning experience. I got to compete with people, the top athletes in the region, and people who are my age, my category. So I know how hard I have to work to get to where I have to be.
Mhm.
Overall,
I,
overall, it was a great experience as well as a learning.
a learning experience. Yeah, that's the important thing there. But were you a bit nervous at the start, and then you grew into confidence? What it was like in terms of because you going through the rounds, first time into the blocks, competing with these girls, whether there's a false start or not, what was going through Shanti's mind?
For the 100, I
Mhm.
was basically going through my race model plan, trying to stay warm. I wasn't letting the other turns psych me out. I was just trying to run my race and focus on the race model. For the 200, I was a bit nervous. I made it to the final, so I was a bit anxious too. And I was basically trying to focus on my 200-meter race model plan as well and trying to run my race.
With that sort of experience, and now it's behind you now, Shanti. If you have to speak to some of your local friends, your friends back home, probably at your training camp, whatever, what would you tell them to encourage them to get to your level, to get to be competing at the CARIFTA Games? What sort of message would you pass on to
First of all, it's a lot of sacrifice.
them?
Us as teenagers, we like to socialize a lot, so you're gonna have to socialize
Mhm.
lots of stuff, going out, etc. You have to put in a lot of hard work. You have to be disciplined, determined, and hardworking in order to reach this level.
Mhm. And let me ask you, Dad didn't tell me anything, but I want to ask you, when you spent quite a while with him and the flag after the race, what he was telling you? um, I, are you there? Yeah, yeah. I was asking what it is Dad was telling you when after the race you spent quite a while speaking with him. You know what exactly he was telling you. Oh, I'm not hearing Shanti.
Um, hello, Mike.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm hearing now. Yeah.
Yes. So he was asking you why when you were talking with me, Shanti, and you spent quite a while. What was being said to you, and what were talking about?
Well, um, after the race, I was a little
Uh-huh.
disappointed, but at least wanted to
Expected.
time. Well, nevertheless, you were trying to say that it's still a great and when it comes to the finals, a lot of people just made it through the
Mhm. Okay. Roger, we missed some of the audio, but if you probably can, you can probably relate to some of what actually you had, you know, what you were telling her during that time.
I'm not hearing you, Mike.
Oh yeah, I'm saying yeah. So I'm saying now that we missed part of the audio from her. So if you can probably tell us what it is, what's
Uh,
the message, what
it
is it you
looks
were
like I
telling her?
will have to sign back in because we're not hearing you at this time.
Oh, you're
We
not
can
hearing.
see
Okay,
you.
yeah, but
Huh?
that's all right. That's okay.
Okay,
That's
so
okay.
we'll just
Yeah,
refresh and
yeah.
come back on.
Yeah, we having a little difficulty, but you can understand why because, as he said, he's remote, and he's trying to well, I hope he's not driving, but he's remote. I think it's only Rudian that does well. Rudian normally will park and then chat. But Nazio, I mean, you know, as you indicated, the 200 appears to be a favorite. Um, at any point in time, well, especially probably the semifinals in particular, because I listened to the commentators at some point in time. They thought you were a bit sluggish, especially the semis. But the legs kind of, you know, the jet lag was creeping in at that time. What was taking place during that period?
During that time, I couldn't lift my legs anymore. Like all those flights back to back in that short span of time, not to mention only getting 3 total hours of sleep.
Mm,
It, I had nothing. I had no energy. I couldn't lift. So I actually was fighting with myself to try to qualify. So I was a little bit sluggish in the semis.
mhm. And and going into the final, running out of lane eight. What was the strategy? What you had in mind? What your dad told you? I mean, what was the real strategy of Nazio competing in the final and probably had an idea of your competitors based on probably, I don't know if you looked at the videos from Champs and things like that. So, what was the strategy for the final?
For the finals, the strategy was get out as fast as you can on the curve and use your strength from 400 training to carry yourself through the last 100 instead of fighting because of the jet lag.
You said 400 training, right?
Yes, sir.
So that was the strategy for you running the 400s prior to CARIFTA Games. Yeah. All right, Nazio. So, Nazio, what's in store for you now that CARIFTA Games has been dusted? I know there is World Youths, yeah, World Under 20, sorry. There is also, you may have nationals. What's in store?
Right right now I have my nationals for my school coming up in just a few weeks. So I have to get ready for that. Then most likely, hopefully, I should be back down there for Wits and Tides. So gonna get ready for that. World 20s, I have to get ready for that. If I happen to make the World Games standard, let's hope I get chosen to go to that too. I have a lot of running
Mhm.
coming up still.
Right. And I guess as much is just one day for you to relax and then back onto the track.
Actually, my coach let me relax today. Tomorrow, he's having me ease back into running, and then Friday, get ready for the meet that I have to go to on Saturday at Oklahoma. He says we're gonna go through race plans, so I have to break down 100, and I have to break down the 4 for my 4x4.
Okay. All right, and as you well, I think Shante is back with us now. So, Shante, thanks once again for staying with us. And I want you to see some of the comments that are coming in. Roger Duncan is saying, congratulations, that Roger, Augustine, continue, the good job. And the hashtag it model parent. He says, go Shante. Yeah, I guess as much as that when he saw you, he says, go Shante. And Shanti with a lot of Y's at the end. And then he says, come on, Grenada, let's make Shanti our champion project. Certainly as a female sprinter, Roger is seeing quite a lot in store for Shanti and others. And hopefully your good friend, Serena Alexander, shy one at the back, who is very quiet tonight. Will also, but Serena, I want to say congratulations as well. You are all the athletes did well, especially based on the circumstances, and certainly want to say congratulations to you as well, not only to Shanti, but all the Grenadian athletes who, participated. And I'm looking forward for you, Serena, as well, in the Bahamas, the Nassau Bahamas, because with Nazio and others didn't fare well, I think they're passing the baton on to you folks who will have to carry it on and hopefully will, give us the medal. So I want to thank you, Nazio, once again for being with us. And, Dad will join us shortly where he will talk about more the logistics part of it. You had to talk about the competition. I'm happy about that. Dad, who is also at a meet, so he will be remote as well. He will talk to us because I think you have a brother who's competing this evening as we speak, right?
Correct.
So so he will talk to us about that. And thanks very much, Nazio.
You're welcome.
Okay then. So that's Nazio John, who is back in Kansas, and certainly he will, we'll keep tab on Nazio. But Shante is still with us. Congrats, everyone. Special shout out to Serena. Train hard, win. Okay, so that's St. David Trailblazers with their hashtag saying, shout out to Shante. So Shante, I want to say thank you once again, and Roger, thank you once again. Certainly, you all brought quite a bit for the track and field fans in Grenada and the diaspora, who have been yearning for track and field and yearning to see people like Shante competing. Very proud of our athletes. Congrats to you all. Hopefully, we'll get more representation next year in the Bahamas. I'm certain that, and I'm hoping that we will get certainly more representation. It's important that we get more representation. It's important that our athletes, in fact, I was reading an editorial from the Trinidad Guardian where they were basically disappointed with the Athletic Association there and its failure to get the athletes, with all the resources, as they were saying, all the resources available. They were disappointed that they were not able to get better performances from the Trinidad athletes. But certainly, Roger was, as I indicated, was one of the biggest fans for Grenada and certainly made the national TV.
Male side really stepping up big time. Right across the Caribbean, we've seen in the last 10, 12, 15 years, athletes having high ratings, great profile on the international circuit.
Yeah, certainly, Roger. There was it. And, that has been making waves, certainly. Found himself. I didn't think he found himself in front of the camera. Someone of the camera found him. And, it was very enjoyable. I certainly could not have missed that. I had my hands on the record button, just waiting for that because I knew at some point it will come, And I was communicating with those commentators in between, giving them little updates about our athletes, And I wanted to ensure that I didn't speak to the camera people, It just happened that I know that at some point you'll find Roger with that Grenada flag and whatever it is he had. But I saw that you were saying that come 2023 that we have to do better than that in terms of support. And one of the things I really want to join others in commending you on is the support, yes, at the CARIFTA Games, but even before that, the support for your daughter and other athletes, whether it's at the National Stadium, whether it's at St. David's, whether it's in Guelph, and certainly, Roger, I want you to talk about that. I know we have a few more minutes with you before we go on to Rudian and Fernando, but talk about that in terms of, the support, the importance of the support for these young athletes, Roger.
Well, I grew up with my great grandmother and grandmother, and that's the extended family where it is often said that it takes a village to raise a child, and what that really means is that parents and not just the parent, everyone in the village supporting will help the child reach further, and as such, I try to give encouragement to athletes when I see they're putting the effort. And even those who are lacking the effort, I try to encourage them to bring the effort levels up and they can get there if they really want to. At the end of the day, athletes have to want it themselves. But when a parent or somebody sees a child making the effort, I think it is incumbent on us to go and say, yeah, give them some clap, investing them and try to make sure that they can get to the next level. And as such, that's why I've been, if it has a meet in Guelph, me and Shanti going to Guelph and her mother going to Guelph. So it's not just me. I mean, a lot of people are seeing me in the front, but her mother is also a strong pillar of support. Her brother as well, her aunt, who is an EMT, also gives support, so it's really an entire family support, always encouraging Shanti, go out there, give your best. And when one can't make it, the other three would make it, and things like that. So that's where, there is a saying that you got to learn to appreciate what you have before somebody else appreciates it for you. And that's what I'm trying to encourage my child. I'm trying to encourage every other child that I meet, every other Grenadian that I speak to. I say, listen, we have talent here and let's try and support it. Let's do what we can. And I'm sure that I'm hopeful that Mr. Private Sector will say, you know what, let's step up our social responsibilities and in the areas of sport, because in the rest of the big world, it is really done by the private sector. They're the ones who step up, put on the big boy boots, and really the coaches know it makes their job easier because they don't have to worry where they're getting the gears from. They need a physiotherapist, they need a chiropractor, they need the health professionals to help nurse them back when they would suffer an injury or so on, and not just on the single parent who, mind you, salaries might be small and really trying to give their child an opportunity to perform the best that they can.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that because, normally that sort of support, we don't really see that in sports. Well, track and field, I should say, in Grenada is more aligned, and I'm talking about the sort of parental support is more aligned, as they say, to probably the swimming and the tennis. When the kids are there, you see all the parents there and things like that. So, but when you go to probably the Bahamas and those places there, track and field, the parents. That's why when the Bahamas traveling, they travel with the Junkanoo band. They travel with the parents. So most times they have two flights, charter flights, two.
Yeah.
Right. Just like swimming, there's a charter flight to Barbados for the swimming, charter flights to Jamaica for the track and field, with the Prime Minister, with the Minister of Sports, and the entire delegation. They invest in sports. That is why the Bahamas can bid successfully for the next CARIFTA Games, and that is why they have made an application as well to be the permanent home rather for the World Relays. That's why also the sports minister should have been on our program tonight, by the way, but he asked to be deferred to another time because they have a very special reception tonight for the CARIFTA swimming team, and there's an NBA player from the Bahamas who's also in the Bahamas tonight, and he wants to meet with them. And I gladly said, no problem, Minister, but he has agreed to be on our program to talk about, that sort of investment that the Bahamas is making in sports, not just track and field, but sports in general. And it's something I think the Eastern Caribbean can look forward to, in terms of how we can, be real action, have real action in sports, and not just say we are committed and we this and we that, but putting the money where it really matters.
Yeah, and I was pleasantly surprised when I'm seeing like the Minister of Sports from Dominica and so on and the other islands are attending CARIFTA Games in Jamaica. And when you went, there was a certain section of the stadium that was cornered off that said Team Barbados, Team Bahamas, and St. Croix, and you can see the large contingent when the Bajans were getting into the stadiums. There was a set of horns, boop, 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 and right after the Bajan team comes in, contingent supporters, then you had the Bahamians, and of course you would hear the drumming and the horns from outside. And what I liked about Jamaica's the way they did it is that one section they had Digicel, and they had a set of young drummers and dancers. So it all bids well for the sport that the young people are taking the lead and are coming and showcase Jamaica's culture, showcase their country's culture. And when the culture is showcased like that, Michael, in the young hands, all right, you don't need convincing for it to continue, and it's sustainable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And of course, I saw my good friend Roger posted a thing there. He made his own video for Bahamas 2023, and I say, put on my name. I like what Steve Duncan has said as well. Why do we have to fly to the US? Why do we have to fly through? We can get a charter too, but we have to do it from early. We have to plan it early. We have to get stakeholders on board, and people have got to, man up and let's support our teams.
Well, I was happy when I saw that, because Steve Duncan himself is a pilot, and he said, "Hey, you have a minimum of 14. We good to go." And that is what I think we have to start, because that's what the Bahamas started. I recall that the Bahamas never really thing with the Bahamas Air, but Bahamas Air became a partner, in terms of their sports. So when it comes to the CARIFTA Games, the Bahamas will outnumber some territories, home territories, in terms of spectators. Yeah. Because they have a section specifically for the junk canoe, with all the equipment and what have you, because whether it's in Curacao, Guadeloupe, Martinique, Grenada, the junk canoe band will be there, and they also not just will be there, but they make preparations to ensure that they're part of the program, meaning that they'll bring us close to the CARIFTA Games. And it shows you all that involved in terms of planning. They get home and they start planning. Well, in this case, they host him, so they don't have to worry about accommodation, because I recall in 2015, just after 2015, they started calling early for hotel reservations for Grenada in 2016. And that is how they do their things, and that is what I'm saying. Now is the time, and Roger, you may probably have to either start a parent support group or something, or either a parent support group or a support Grenada fan group or something, so with names and numbers and a real group chat where you can start corralling people seriously to support our athletes, because CARIFTA Games, and we know it's every Easter weekend is the 8th to the 10th of April. Come next year, people can start planning. Exactly the period of it. Okay, and as you say, Team Grenada with T-shirts and all that it takes. And do something. The ball is in your court, Roger. I think from that experience in Jamaica and your 60 seconds of fame, you should do something. So I really want to thank you, Roger, for being part of our program. I look forward to chatting with you again on our program. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, Michael. Thank you. Okay. And all the best to your viewers. And
my regards also to Shanti and Serena. Okay.
And Serena. Yeah,
Yeah,
in the back.
thank you. Yes, in the back. Shy Serena in the back. Thank you very much, girls. All right then.
All right,
Okay then.
bye.
Right. Okay then. So folks, that's where you heard it there from Roger Augustine, and you also heard from Shanti, and Serena is also in the back there from St. David's Travelings as well. He's taking those kids home. Thank you very much. Let me join my good friend Rudy, and who has been listening attentively. I know you will have a lot to say. Fernando is somewhere there. I know Fernando, by the way, Fernando is in. Oh, he's there. He's in and between because he was with, um, his son, younger brother of Nazio is also coming up, and he is, you know, and Fernando is just back, but he's already back on the track coaching. So I want to say good evening to you, gentlemen, Rudian and Fernando. Um, Rudian,
How you doing,
um,
man?
yes, I'm okay. Um, Briefly, from what you heard from both Nazio and Shante.
No, I was very Nazio still he's excited. But I know it was a lot of frustration for him. Um and it was a lot on the body, a lot on the mind for him. But he did what he had to do. He did his job. I mean, maybe the results is maybe not what he want, but he went and he execute with under the condition that he had. So he did good. The rest of the team did awesome. I mean, I am very impressed, very impressed. And Grenadian athletes in the past haven't impressed me. And I mean, have not. And I've watched the whole CARIFTA Games, and I was very impressed. So there is nothing more to say than the future
Mhm.
for Grenada youths looks good
Right.
right now.
All right. So hold that thought there about looks good, and we'll develop on it. I want to get Fernando, like get some things to say because I know he's coaching, so you have to go back. But Fernando, um, first of all, congrats you and the family with Nazio, etc., etc. But you know, at last you got to Jamaica.
Finally, finally.
Yeah, I know. And luckily, as you say, Nazio has to be really commended because a young athlete could be very frustrating, and I know the anxiety for him to travel and to get there, and thinking about him not getting there, not being able to compete in his final CARIFTA games. I imagine the toll, the emotional toll that would have had on him, and probably started to have on him, but eventually got to Jamaica. How were you able to get him to make that quick transition from all that he went through, arriving on the eve, Friday night, rather
Saturday night.
Saturday night, after 7, 8 o'clock, that's kind of late evening period, and having to compete very early the Sunday morning. How were you able to make that transition, get him into that frame of mind to compete?
Well, good night to everyone, first of all. It was extremely difficult, but when we think about it, I have to remind Nazio, this is what we work for. And coach, a lot of people think coaching is just coaching. There's a whole different aspect of coaching that has nothing to do with track. This is our most difficult part. The running part is easy, but getting them prepared mentally for a competition, that is huge. So I have to reiterate to him that this is what we work for. There was a point when we was actually at the airport in Miami, because he came from when he was Kansas to Dallas to Miami. We was there for like 6 hours, and then all of a sudden the flight was canceled for no reason. Well, they didn't give us a reason. I went up to speak to one of the representatives. They asking me why were the flight canceled? I'm like, you work there. So then we had to fly back to Texas, and then from Texas get another flight to Jamaica. We got there after 10 tonight on the airport, and then go through customs or whatever, and then got to the athletes village. Having to remind him, you got to compete in the morning. We got to refocus. And the whole trip, I'm trying to get with his head. I said, it happens for a reason. I don't know what the reason is, but there is a reason behind. There's a lesson to learn from this. You have to rebound. So I'm like, I remember one of my friends in '92 went to the Olympics and he missed his flight, so he ended up missing his race, actually competing. So these are one of the stories I had to tell him. What it happens all the time. There's nothing we can do about it now. It's done. Let's refocus and get ready for that race. And it was difficult, but he really pulled through. And the biggest thing is him keeping his eye on the prize. This is what we trained for. You missed one race, but you have an opportunity in the other race to compete and go make Grenada proud. And I think he was more disappointed with the fact that he didn't get to, represent Grenada in the 100, which he said that was a show medal, because I feel like I could medal in the 100. So that was one of the biggest things for him, is the disappointment of not, making his people proud because he missed the race. And that was like a medal they was expecting, and he felt like he could deliver on it. So that disappointment was something then again, I had to be more counselor. At times I was there, I'm not being dad, I'm being counselor, brother, a friend, whatever he needs to actually get his mind on competing the next day. So it was a challenge, but for some reason we pulled it off. I think the main thing was keeping your eye on the prize, and you have an opportunity right now. You wear national colors. We don't care what happened before. You're going to go there and you're going to give the people you're going to represent well. And he's like, well, I'll give it all I have. I was like, that's all I'm asking you to do. Go there and represent full 7-3 with everything you have. Leave it on the track. It's your last CARIFTA. There is no next year. You leave it on the track and make Grenada proud. And that was the main thing he was focused on. Not so much for himself. Because I remember he was telling me, I'm going to win a medal for Grenada. I'm like, for you? He's like, no. I'm winning for Grenada. Okay, I get to keep it, but Grenada is winning a medal. They're not going to say Nazio win a medal. They're going to say Grenada got a medal in that event. So his main thing was doing it for his country. And, he can't be commended enough for him keeping his composure and staying focused and going out there and executing the way I expected him to.
Yeah, Rudy, and listening to the commentators and their comments, because in the 200 they focus a lot on Nazio. A lot of the comments were on Nazio, and basically a pity, because and then they were even saying, hey, if it's one person we really want to speak to, is Nazio John at the end, because they really wanted to hear for an athlete who had gone through all these things, because I was keeping them updated as to what was happening through, as Fernando was giving me the information, in real time, and the comments and things from those commentators, you get the impression they were very sympathetic to Nazio cause, because all that he went through and still being able to, get a medal, even running out of lane 8, all these sort of things. What were your assessment, Rudian?
Well, Nazio name has been spoken in the region, so they know his name now, and the fact that when they didn't see him in the 100, a lot of people says they was talking about it. There was things to say. So because he has shown them who he is, and they love what he says, especially 200. He had the second fastest time going in terms of previous time. So I know, I'm watching strategy. Before he and Dad spoke of the strategy, I knew what the strategy was. You got to get out. You got to get out. And I tell my athletes is once you get out hard, don't let no one pass you. And whatever happened in the straightaway happened when you get in lane 8, because that's exactly what it was. He had to get out, and he was nervous. I could have seen it on his face. But I am mostly proud that his name is being sung in the region now, that people know there is a Grenadian named John, and he has something coming, and they're speaking about it. Yeah. So they're starting to be fearful. They're starting to be fearful. So that is the greatest thing, that he so much loved the country Grenada and representing the country Grenada, that other people from the different nationality see that as well, and they want to see him make Grenada proud. So
Yeah.
it's really good.
If only, if I'm glad you said that, and if only the authorities listening can respect, you know, his proud representation, you know,
Yeah,
because he speaks highly of Grenada, but
yeah.
sometimes it's not really manifested in terms of how he's treated, you know, and I think he needs to get the level
And
of respect.
it's not only him. Every athlete wear the Grenada colors very proudly, very
Mhm.
proudly, and I was so impressed. As I said, I in the past years of CARIFTA, I watched little piece. For some reason, this CARIFTA games, I watched the whole thing,
Yeah,
um, and I
and
was
this
getting
guy,
live update compared
yeah.
to any other time. There was something different about this generation who is competing. There's
What
just something different. Yeah,
well, this character game was so special, and I said the Grenada thing was special because of all the challenges that they faced.
yeah,
Even, for example, Shanti had her own challenge, you know, getting to the games. Nazio had one that, well,
yeah.
while Shanti's own it wasn't, you know, a regional one, Nazio own became a regional one, you know, in terms of news articles and all these sort of things.
Yeah.
You know, I try to imagine if he actually had missed the entire games, what would have taken place, what would have been said, because he just missed one race, and you saw
Yeah.
all the news articles and all the commentators were talking about, you know, so much a miss for
and
Nazio, and I
and,
hope
and
that
I'm
Nazio
telling
gets
you,
there.
as a coach, I had that experience with my girl, my athlete, which Nazio is actually going to compete at her school on Saturday. She's actually going to jump this weekend too, and there was a time when she went to visit the same school, Oklahoma, and she got stuck in the U.S. and she couldn't come get back for some reason. Something went wrong, and missed the long jump of her originals to move on to high school championship. And I can do a lot, but I couldn't stop that one. I tried my best. I said in the triple jump, I will move mountains to make sure she jump. I will have to do something. But the long jump, I couldn't do nothing because it was the different day and so forth. So I know the challenges in terms of missing an event, not qualifying for an event, not showing up for an event because of something goes wrong. So I know the feeling as a coach, as a parent. I feel like a father to her, and you know, so I know that feeling because I was nervous for her more than she was nervous for herself. So I know the feeling for you, Dad, because I know you were more nervous for him than he was even nervous. So I know the feeling.
Tell you, couldn't sleep. I just need to get him there because I'm thinking we got to get him there. It's his last chance, and he's so looking forward to meeting the team and just being because in Nairobi it was just us, and he said finally I have a team again, and he just wanted to go. I think for him, not so much missing for him, but missing the chance to represent Grenada was huge for him, and. You know, you see the sadness in his face, and then you want to do something, and there's nothing you can do. That is the worst feeling ever.
Yeah. Well,
And
well,
like I said, the biggest question is where do we go from here?
yeah.
Knowing that you see athletes. Go ahead, and I will come back.
No, yeah. Before you say where we go from here, let me just um, say congratulations to all the athletes who
Oh,
represented Grenada. All the athletes who represented Grenada. Um, those who didn't win a medal, your representation was well noted. You know, whether it was fifth place, sixth place, you know, in some cases was their first time at the CARIFTA Games, and I'm
Again,
saying
yeah,
in context of all that these athletes went through. Because remember, unlike some of the other islands, there wasn't many competitions for the local athletes in particular, right? Apart from the intercall, apart from probably the
yeah,
mini meets as
yeah.
they call
Mini
it,
meets. Yeah,
there, when you compare that to probably the athletes in Jamaica, for example, or the Bahamas, where they are competing almost every weekend, you know,
yeah,
whether it's in Montego Bay, whether it's in Kingston, you know, whether it's GC Foster has an invitational, they were competition. In fact, I spoke to some of the Grenadian athletes who are based in Jamaica, and you will here is the difference. Our athletes are returning to Grenada, and probably for the KFC relay, and probably Whitsuntide. But already the athletes in Jamaica, some of the Grenadian athletes, they're all comers meet. There's a Velocity Fest meet. There is pen relays, which some of them actually attending. Okay, you know, and there are other meets in Jamaica until such time that school gone into recess. So that's the difference, you know, in terms of that. So I'm saying that in the context of our athletes, their performances must be commended, okay? Um, because under the circumstances, there is not much competition. You know, there isn't much competition, and even when if it's really a meet and you know with some tight games, blah blah blah, it's not until next year. You know, what happens to these athletes? You know, especially the school-based athletes. So in that context, I'm saying that. So Raven Telesford on the 17 boys javelin gold medal, the only gold medal for Grenada, and we had bronze medals for Cameron Thomas in the under 20 javelin, Isaiah Patrick on the 20 pole vault, Serena Alexander, who we saw earlier with Chante, she had the under 17 girls javelin, she got a bronze medal. Um, Ashari Ino from Karaku on the 20 high jump. She got a bronze medal. And of course, Nazio John in the under 20 boys 200 meters. That's what the medal tally for Grenada. We had no silver medals. And then we had the unfortunate situation with Jamora Alves, yeah, who came down, you know, with the COVID as reported by the Athletic Association. And certainly she was, you know, medal bound, you know. She was medal bound. She was ready for medals, you know. But it was unfortunate. Yes, looking forward, Rudy, very important. The planning going forward. Every year, well, we haven't had CARIFTA for the past 2 years, but I know normally it's the same that when the athletes return and they do the association, you know, do the association rather, you know, will do its, you know, review, etc., etc. You hear all the big plans for going forward, but nothing seems to materialize. As you hear, we were talking with Roger, and we were speaking more about the logistical part in terms of a fan base, you know, getting more parents involved, getting more parents to be part of the process, and you know, getting more fans to support Team Grenada when they go out there. But when it comes to the athletes themselves, in going forward, what would you like to see the association do in the interim to ensure that come 2023, we not just have representation, but we have better representation? And I saw some comments there, but it came up again, you know. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
there is so much I can say, but sometimes you have to know when to say it. Um, the system in Grenada has been the same way from since I was competing.
Mm-hmm.
It's and you want the athletes to move forward. You want the athletes to do better. Competing in 3 meets wouldn't do that. Most times they only get 3 meets, maybe 4, maybe. They cannot move forward. They cannot get anywhere. So that have to change. Yes, we say the COVID, you know, we're using the COVID for everything now. Well, Jamaica had COVID too. It wasn't Grenada. They had meets. Yes, Jamaica do have millions of people. We understand that. The funding is maybe a bit higher than ours. I get all of that stuff. But it's time for us to put funding in athletics in Grenada in terms of not necessarily towards the athletes, but towards competition. That's truly what's lacking. That's really what's lacking. And the more meets you have, is the more competition you'll get. It is time for us to put meets where Trinidad can come in. And we used to have that. Jamaica can come in. And the Bahamas can come in. And Barbados, it's time for them to come in. We are always going. It's time for us to come in. It's time for others to come into that. So we need to put meets together, because that's the one thing that is missing before everything else. If you don't have competition, it's pointless. I mean, I switching for a little bit. I was just watching the results that we got 2 bronze in the swimming in CARIFTA. 2 bronze medal. They didn't even have a swimming pool. In that sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, they don't have a proper swimming facility, and if they do, it's only a short distance. That is not even as much as what they actually competed in.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's
okay,
true.
but they go out there and they perform. It is time to put money into the things because you are seeing the results. It is just time. Forget about trying to give the athletes money or trying to do things, and we always we focus on one set of people sometimes, and we have to expand it. We have to expand it. We have to think big. We have to think bigger than just the normal way we're thinking that it has been in the past. Because, and again, I want to be careful of what I say. Sometimes it's just the same set of people in the same position and nothing gets done. It is time for something new. It is time for a change in Grenada. It is time for us to see. And it's not only in athletics. Yes, I love it. But in every single sport. It is time for us to put it in. Because what build a country? Sports. You go to England, you go to France, and then you see the fans follow them. Sports. Sports bring a nation together. And then we see now that the Caribbean now in the youth is developing well in the sprinting. Yes, we say the sprinting is so forth and the Jamaica for sprinting and so forth, but in the end, we have to see it on the world stage, the results on the world stage, not only in the Caribbean, in the region. We have to see it on the world stage because as we spoke about lengthily, since Usain Bolt left, it's been empty for men sprinting in the Caribbean. It's been literally empty. So it's time to see that coming in. But at the same time, we need to have more track and field events happening. Small. It could just be a meet that has, and they have the stadium. We only have one. We should have a second one. They should put one in Grenville. They should have a second stadium, but we have one. We should have meets every weekend. Every weekend. It doesn't have to be all the events. It could just meet with the 1, the 2, the 4.
But they do have them what they call the mini meets, right? The development meets. They do have that. But I see where you're coming from. You're looking for a more structure. Something
because I make sure again. Go ahead.
Mike Batiste was saying, don't forget Jamara Patterson being the only new athlete to qualify for World Junior Champs for Grenada at the meet. Nazio has already run standard in both the 1 and the 200 meters, and also Ashari Ino is ranked number 9 in the world for the under 20 female high jumpers. There's a comment here. This is so true, Mr. Rudy and Silva. They need to put their money in sports. And Roger Duncan said, OECS games, inter-parish games, spice relays, secondary schools in the southern region, Barbados, Trinidad, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Guyana, Venezuela, Suriname, Grenada. Roger, don't let me get too riled up about that because, I get sort of emotional because this was the intention of Michael Bascom and the Grenada Invitational before others with other ideas decided to derail. Because my philosophy of the Grenada Invitational was to make it an invitational in itself where it develops local as Grenada talents with some sprinkling from the Caribbean, whether it's St. Vincent, St. Lucia, blah, 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 and things like that. But there were people with swell-headed, I should say, with bigger ideas and decided that, no, that's not the way to go. So don't let me get riled up because whenever I see that, I get a bit emotional.
But one of the things, I know, Mr. John, I know you want to speak, but one of the things too.
I'm listening.
And, if you look at champs, and the same thing goes for us here. I am part of the high school track and field championship out here. I'm one of the organizers. And my position is field, so I'm in charge of all the jumps. I have to, that's where I'm all the jumps I'm in charge. But they have to qualify to get the champs. It's not just the school sending a team in. That means they have to have more meets and people have to run specific times to qualify. That have to change home too. Because once you have a qualifying standard, you're taking the top 24, the top 12, or the top whatever in every category, then you're going to have meets for them to qualify to get into.
Yeah, but there's one misconception there, and folks, although we're running out of time, I want us to still stay on the point. I always
Yeah. I know.
I've always been generous to give extra time, but and it was a discussion that came up regarding the standards, and I want to, from as far as I know, there isn't any standard or standards rather for CARIFTA Games. What happened is that the individual associations they provide their own standards. So for example, the Grenada Athletic Association will set its own standard.
Yeah.
And what it is sometimes is very unrealistic at times. Because I remember some years ago, and I'm saying it here, I asked an official of the Grenada Athletic Association regarding the standards being set. And the response to me was that if any of our Grenadian athletes attain the standard, they are sure to win a medal. Wow. And my thing was at the time, is it all about winning a medal? What's about participation? Because when you speak to Sir Austin Seeley, the founder of the CARIFTA Games, and I recall I have that interview with him that I did in Toronto in 2015 at the Pan Am Games. He basically said that the CARIFTA Games is all about showcasing the talents of our young athletes in the region. So it's not so much about, the focus is not so much about winning medals.
Winning medal, yeah.
It's a celebration of our athletes, a celebration of their talents. Okay? Because there isn't any standard set by CARIFTA Games. When you look at the manual and all, there's no
standard. There's no standard.
It's the association that's setting their own standard.
Make a standard, yeah.
And so if Grenada, for example, wants to send a full contingent, they can send
a full team.
2 athletes per event. They could send it.
And one of the things that I always say, experience do matter, because the athletes now will have that experience. You can take your best in every category and take them be a part of the national team to go. Let them go and get that feeling. Let them go and experience what it's like to represent the country.
Even Jamaica, for example, even if they do have a standard, they still send a full contingent.
Send a full team, yeah.
Because not everyone will make the qualifying thing. Yes, you could have a standard that probably can give a good gauge. Yeah. But when it comes to participation, for example, there was one event where one athlete competed.
Yep.
One athlete from Jamaica competed.
One athlete.
Not only there was events with only one athlete. I look at the intercall results with Ethan Sam. He would have medaled in the 100 and the 200 based on the times he did. He ran 10.95, I believe, in intercall. And the third place, we could check the third place medalist in the U17 boys. He's right there. So he missed out on a chance to possibly be even faster. Because I looked at the 100 at intercall, he was not challenged.
Yeah.
The winning time for intercall at CARIFTA U17 was, I think it was 10.72. And he ran 10.95, being 5 meters ahead of everyone. So he was not challenged. Okay. So I don't understand. I don't understand why is it that some people are not getting the chance that they deserve.
Some do. Yeah.
Some people do. That's for them to decide.
Well, you see, and that's why I'm saying we always put the issue of cost in front and not the interest of those athletes, and that's the problem. We always say cost. We all, we are blaming COVID. Well, we had something we could have blamed for a while, which was COVID. So now we've gone back to cost, But and I'm saying that to say that, hey, we have an entire year to plan. So we know let's say, okay, let's forget, if we want to forget about 2022. We have 1 year to plan, 2023. And I'm betting you, to some extent, we could have that same conversation come 2023.
But that's the thing. I want to change that conversation because
Well,
everyone said we want. I want to change that conversation to wow. We didn't win as much as we expected to, but look at the representation. Being in Jamaica this year and seeing Roger in the stand, that was such a it was such a boost to the athletes just to see a local another Grenadian
yeah,
with a flag when they're running. It's
right.
like
And
that flag is so outstanding.
yeah,
Anywhere in the world you see that flag, you have to stop and take a look.
Yeah, yeah.
could you
How do we not
imagine?
recognize that?
Could you imagine people like Shanti and Jamara Patterson and others who competed? What that is doing for them in terms of their confidence? Could you imagine if they didn't get the chance to go to compete? You know?
I certainly can because after Ashanti ran the 200, I went up to her. I had to hug her. And I'm like, girl, I'm so proud of you. And she's like, well, I said, no, well, nothing. Do you realize that what you just did? You made a finals in your first and competing with the likes of
Yeah,
the people you
the best.
competed with, and you
Yeah.
represented well. So there's no I could have done. You did the best. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure you did the best that you could. And she said, yes, I did. And I'm like, I am so proud of you. I
Mhm,
spoke
mhm,
to Serena Alexander.
mhm.
I was so proud of that girl. It's like she's nervous, but yeah, she's like she did her job, and all the other athletes.
And
It was just great.
that's where the athletes from Jamaica and the Bahamas and others have the advantage over us because of the
They have the
experience.
support and the
Well,
support
and the support, yeah, because they are competing so regularly,
regularly.
because they go out and compete as well. They are so used to that, right? That you know,
It's nothing.
it's
It's nothing
nothing.
to them.
They're not nervous, even if they were competing in Grenada or Trinidad or Barbados. it
They
would have
never.
been it would have been the same because why? They get that exposure. They have been competing probably some of them would have had probably five, six, seven, eight, nine races for the season. While when you compare that to Grenada in terms of competitive races, three and four races probably competitively for our local athletes. No, come on, we're not serious,
But
and that's why we
but
have to give them that exposure.
no,
We
we do.
do.
And as you said that, Mr. Bascom, we had a big conversation here in Canada. And there was a point in time when Canada was doing the exact same thing. To make a team, you have to make an Olympic team or a World Championship team, you have to break the Canadian record. And it's not even the standard for the games. Because the games are the standard and Canada have the standard. And so you literally said, and that's the mindset too. They want you to go and get a medal. That was their thought. They want you to go and get a medal. They want you to go and get a medal. That's one. Junior athletes and under had to pay to represent Canada at one point. Literally. And they're talking about big Canada. Had to pay. And then you look at the smaller countries who don't have to, they have a full team going and they don't have to pay nothing. They have to literally pay $1,000 or $2,000 to go wherever they had to go. And that conversation changed because the president changed. And when the president came in, I wasn't the only one who had a conversation, but many of us had a conversation with him. And we let him know what was going on. And he was shocked. So from now, you qualify right now, you're on the national team by coming in the top in trials, being in the top whatever in trials. But you have to have the standard at the same time. You have to run the standard prior to, and then you have to come in and be in the top 3 or the top 4 as well. And that completely changed right now for us. And that's some of the things that we cannot have this thing going on where you want someone to go and get a medal, then you only send in one person. If that's the mindset, you only send in one. And then, and again, let me say, you're sending one athlete with 4 officials. Okay.
I would like to. What I
We have
really
to
would like to
change.
do.
Like I said, some things have to change. The conversation have to be there. They have to allow the people to have a conversation with them. I'm not arguing, not anything, just having a conversation for them to listen to the concerns of what the people of Grenada has concerning their children and the sports. We need to have that.
You're right. We do need to have that. But what I really would like to see, Whitsunday isn't coming up, and I know after Intercall, track and field is done in Grenada pretty much. You'll see Whitsunday, but the representation of the athletes would not be there as to before Intercall. What I would like to see for Whitsunday is coming up, I hope all the athletes who's competing, they continue to train and come out and show what they can do at Whitsuntide, because some of them still have a chance to make the World Games teams. I guess I'm coming to Whitsuntide now because Nazio said he's coming. For some reason, he was speaking to Javelin and some other athletes, and he wants to come down now to run there. There are quite a few people who's almost made the standards for the World Games. And I really would like to encourage them to train hard and come out there. And we have the talent. Put them together, let them race it out and see if it could help improve their times. I really
But
want to
but
encourage them to train
but
hard.
the
Keep
disappointment,
motivated.
but the disappointment part is that some of these athletes get to the point now, and the coaches, especially the coaches, with the mindset that with the education and the thought that they have on certain things, that you have them working so hard and they still wouldn't make a team. You have them pushing and they still don't make a team,
But if
and
we
that's the
don't try,
frustration that comes in, and that's the
but if we don't
frustration with
keep
some of the
trying, it
coaches.
still remains the same. I
Yeah.
honestly believe with the U20 4x1 and 4x4, they would have medal had they run in character. Well, whatever happened, it is that's over with. We can't change that. It didn't happen. There was actually seeded to run because their names was there. Their lanes were they was calling for the
Yes.
play cause where it was there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of the kids couldn't get to go. But Whitson Ties is coming up. And I honestly believe if you get those guys together, if it's money that costs for them to go to Jamaica to try and run the relay, most time it's in Grenada. So that's the only one I think that's outside of Grenada is Nazio and possibly Jaden Phillip. Because I believe Shavin and those guys from Jamaica will be back in Grenada for Whitson Tides. If money is the issue, they're in Grenada. Let's get them together. All the coaches, let's forget our egos. It's not about us. It's about the kids and the future of those kids and the doors that can open for them. Train together. Start work. You identify 5 or 6 guys within that pool that could represent the Grenada in the U20, 4x1 or 4x4. Have them meet once a week. Train together. Work on handoffs. The only like I said, the only two you'll have to add when you come in is those who live out here. Okay, so train together, train hard, and let's go. If I am certain, if they go in with some time and they run a decent time enough, well, at least it gives the association or it gives something to talk about in terms of, well, y'all did okay. If you didn't do good enough, oh well, we didn't. But I'm certain they'll do good enough that it'll spark a conversation with them and the association, and it's not going to cost us 10,000, whatever. It's not going to cost us much. They're already there. So I really want to encourage them to stay motivated, work hard, and let's give it a shot. It is worth trying because we're right there in Grenada. Nothing to lose.
Okay.
But we need
Go
to
ahead.
see a change. But we need to see a change in the whole system, from the school system, all the way to the administration system, and if we can do that, if we truly can do that, and see that our athletes is leaving Grenada and they go into another country and they're performing very well, they are performing beyond. You understand? Because the coaches now feel that they don't have the support to take those athletes to the next level. They feel that they don't have the equipment to take them to the next level. They feel they don't have that confidence no more to take them to the next level. So it is time for us to see that if they have to leave, let them leave. In the end, it's about them. It's about them. We don't want our athletes to leave. We want them to stay home. We want them to be coached at home. We want them to do well. But I think truly that it will be very good that if they can go away, go away. We don't want them to. We want them to stay home, but we don't have the system. The system is not in place. It is not there. How can we move? How can we move forward? How can we get there? And that's the conversation they need to have. And we cannot wait for them to have that conversation. We have to try and get out there. We are trying to see who we can speak to. We are trying to see what we can do, and then we can make it done. So I know we're talking about getting some of the parents out there to support. Some of the parents they are struggling in Grenada. Not all, but some parents are struggling, and sometimes some of them is hard. Where are the businesses to help them? Where are the where they are? Even the administration. Where are them to help
Well,
to
well,
move forward?
listen, I'm glad you made that point there, and I think Roger Duncan also put up something there, which is imagine if 10,000 Grenadians give $1 a month to a sporting fund. That's $120,000 a year just so. Well, again, it calls for initiative and things like that. But going back to the point with the parents and things like that, so and folks are struggling and things. And I recall some stories out of Jamaica, for example, where parents see and they believe in supporting their kids in sports is a way out of poverty, and there are some, some features, you can go and check on some of those things where some of those most talented athletes from Jamaica, when you look at their background, they come from very poor family, poor neighborhoods, and things like that. So, and they are using, sports, track and field, as a way for them to fight poverty, a way for them to get something better for their family, for their parents, and sometimes it's seen as an investment. And I think sometimes we have to basically let parents know and understand that sort of sacrifice they're making. I spoke to, well, when I say I spoke, you heard Shanti, for example, when I asked her, what would you tell your colleagues, and she tell them about, the advice she will give them is about the hard work, the sacrifice. At her age, she already speaking about hard work, sacrifice. She even talk about less on social media, the distraction and all these things. And it shows you her mindset. It shows you what she's thinking already. It shows you what her parents probably instill in her, and she's focused and probably she's on a mission, and that is what, we want to ensure that our kids, even at her age, she start thinking. She's not waiting until she's 19 and 20, to think about those things. But certainly her parents are letting her know what she should be focusing on and putting her in the path, and in the direction. I really like what I'm hearing from some. So, I mean, I know we bash our young people there, but we still have some hope. And people like Shante and Nazio and others who I'm hoping that I can use from time to time to come and speak. And, even we had, or the Jamara Patterson. You remember Jamara Patterson? Those young, they're only, in this case, those girls, they're only what, 17, and in case of Nazio, who's what, 18, 19, sorry, and already you see that they are focused. You see that, their mindset is one of, knowing what they want to accomplish in life, and we have to get more of them to share their experiences. And that's why I really was sort of pleased to have Shante, to say, in her own words, what the experience was like. We don't want to go back too much of, whether you could have come first or you could have come second. Tell us the experience. Share with us the experience. Nazio is the same thing, because Nazio was a unique case in terms of him getting there, not being able to even have a good warm up at the tracks, and all these sort of things. The athletes, in fact, some of the athletes, remember, some of the athletes arrived in Jamaica as early as Wednesday, Thursday, and familiarize themselves on the track and get blah blah blah. Mind you, our Grenadian athletes, especially those who are coming from Grenada, arrived sometime on Friday, because they overnighted in Trinidad the Thursday night. They left Thursday, went to Trinidad overnight, and then flew up to Jamaica. So I mean, again,
makes a big difference.
Yeah, but I'm saying that in the context of the performances of our athletes. When you look at all that, the challenges and things like that. So, with Nazio, Shante, the others having to, get there the day before competition rather. How much time do they have to the time they get up to Jamaica to get to the track, and the competition starts on Saturday? You understand what I'm saying in that context? So I'm saying when you look at the performances of our athletes, we must commend them. Whether they got a medal or they didn't get a medal, we must commend them for participating, because they they
I
won
certainly have
against
to.
all odds.
I certainly have to commend every one of these athletes. And speaking to those athletes, and you hear their plan and the motivation that they had to just go forward. The thing that stood with me the most is the fact that they were so proud to represent Grenada. It's like
Yeah.
they're there, but they're not there for themselves. And I have never seen that on any team where all the athletes is just so eager to do well for Grenada. Shavin almost cried when he made the semifinals, and I think he had a slight injury. He could not go, and he's like, he was so eager to go represent Grenada, and it's like I felt it for him because he wasn't even worried about himself. He was worried about making Grenada proud, and him, I mean Romeo, all the kids. Ashanti, speaking to that young lady, she a brilliant, brilliant young lady. Speaking to Jamara, she is just, I can't speak highly enough about that team and the athletes and just their dedication to their country and their motivation going forward. I think the future of Grenada track and field is in good hands with these young athletes. I have no doubt that they're gonna carry they're gonna carry the flag very proud, and they're gonna make the entire country proud
But
years
but
for years.
not only there are two. If we also go back to one, which is what I really hope that the Conrad and those in position can go back and look at the results, not only for the Grenadian, but the results in general. And if you see, like we talk about this one athlete, only one person in the event. Imagine if we had one more from Grenada there, we get a silver medal.
Yeah.
And there's other events when there is four. Or sometimes, so we have to go back and look at it and say, where can we develop? Areas that we have to develop athletes. Areas that we could have take athletes from Grenada as well, who is performing pretty decent, and we could have a full team. So I really hope that they can go back on the strategy, put a CARIFTA team together, people who focus on the CARIFTA games, because it's something that happens every year with a certain age group. Put a CARIFTA team together where they just do their research. They have to go around the island and listen and talk and go to the schools and focus on that and pinpoint athletes that can pinpoint athletes that can do some things, encourage them of making a team, encouraging the event, and if they can do that, I think we can look at a full team, and then we can say yes. Now we can say the administration is doing something. They are doing something. So
Before you thing, I saw a comment came up about $1 a month for each Grenadian or whatever, and then
Yeah.
I would like to pledge that let's start the movement right now. I'm on board to paying that $1 a month to whoever that's going to handle that, so we can ensure that we have the funding for next year CARIFTA. Really, are you with me?
Yeah.
I'm on board, and I'll be the first to say I'm on board. Let me know where I need to send that to.
No, I know. I said to someone that I'm being biased because I love my country. I love Grenada. I love when I represent Grenada, and I always say that St. Vincent should never be ahead of us in nothing. And that's me being biased. I'm not trying to say St. Vincent shouldn't uplift themselves. I'm not saying that. But it feels like in sports, St. Vincent is ahead of us. It feels like in certain areas of building the country of St. Vincent, they're ahead of us. And we shouldn't be there. We have to take a step back and see ourselves, look at where we came from to where we are now. Look at, like, at one point, I know we're going into a different thing. Grenada was like the capital of the Eastern Caribbean. It's like we were the capital of that region. Now we're no longer there. It's time for us to take a step back and look at that, even in sports, that some countries should not be ahead of us. We should be ahead of them. And so I'm just saying that we just have to take a step back, figure out ourselves, put ourselves together. We look at netball, that they couldn't send a team because they wasn't ready. Like, what, St. Vincent won? Like, I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, we couldn't send a team to defend?
Defending champion.
You defend them. They couldn't send a team?
Listen,
so certain things is not really how we see that way being on the outside. There is more to it, but we're hoping that we can get the, proper information.
Right. We have 5 minutes more to wrap up. I want to bring in some of the comments. There are a lot of comments coming in. But important enough about that thing is that I recall some years ago, a guy by the name of Mike McQuilkin made a very good suggestion, even though he had it in an article and it was kind of embedded in the article, but it was a very good suggestion where he said that, and I thought about it because Roger Duncan was talking about we're not short of ideas. He was talking about the dollar, for example, per month, the dollar at Spice Mart, for example, you could probably put a levy on certain things, 50 cents or a dollar, just a
Yeah,
levy
yeah,
on things for a period of time, sunrise, sunset, so it's for a period of time to collect money. But Mike's suggestion was that with the cruise ship terminal that and at the airport, sorry, cruise ship and at the airport, we have something in place where when people are leaving and they have loose change, as they call it, they can leave it there. So something where they drop it at the cruise ship terminal, people come in, visitors come in, and they leave in, and they have, couple change or a
Grenadian
few
dollars
dollars.
living with, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they can leave it there.
I have a whole bunch of sitting in my
Right,
house.
right. The problem, though, he observed, which was correct, was that who manages it? A good idea, but who
So
manages it?
who's managing it?
Who is managing it? Which is
Yeah.
very important. And I'm saying that to say that we're not short of ideas, but sometimes we have the problem where we fall short of those things. Comments coming in. Hey, cuz, good night and congratulations to your son and the rest of the athletes. Andy Noel is saying good
That's
night
my
to
cousin.
you.
Hey,
Yeah, when
cuz,
he
night,
said
night,
his name,
night.
cuz, Andy Noel, that should be someone from St. Andrews, right? I assume.
Yes, that's my
Yeah.
cousin. Good to hear from you, bro.
Yeah. Roger Augustine and Michael Bascom, let's chat tomorrow, I assume, on this dollar that dollar idea, dollar initiative. Clive Deputy is saying structure, and financial support, sponsorship year around. Athletics cannot be treated as Christmas and annual event. It must be year round. That's it. That's it.
Totally agree.
That's the conversation. That's the conversation. That's the problem, by the way.
That,
Athletics
and that,
is
that's what I'm
treated,
saying.
yeah,
If they want to focus on specific, like we love track and field, character is every year. Put a character team together that focus. If it's just three bodies that focus on that, going
mhm,
around talking to athletes, seeing athletes, and saying, hey, even if you have to give them a pair of shoes here, this or that, something there, it will help.
yeah. Hey, Mona, good night to you, Mona. Mona, Mona, I only put that up because I know I want the folks to laugh. But no, Mona. But try your best, Mona. Good night to you, Richard. Mona. Richard Tinker, there used to be primary school football, cricket, athletics, etc. These are no more. We must get behind. We must get left behind because foundation is weak. So
Well,
again, it
I'll
comes
take
back
back on
to
that.
and
In
it comes back to the structure.
in St. Patrick's, there is I know the person in charge. So there are all those little sports happening still.
Mhm,
Maybe not as much as how it used to be. And you're right
mhm.
to that. So let me not take away your
No,
comment. But some of the sports are still there. The soccer,
yeah, well, that
and
is
so
why.
some of the good thing is doing. However, there's also too that the government is also adding something with the education where is it happening in September where they're having a physical education person going in for a certain region in 4 different schools in parishes. That's something that's in place. Either it started already or it's about to start come September. So they're
Okay,
bringing in something
mhm,
through the education system. We don't
okay.
know how it's going to work, but there is something coming in there.
Well, what Richard is saying, what you are saying, coming back to what Clef Deputy is saying, structure, structure, structure. That is
Structure.
what we need. We need proper structures in place, and
Yeah.
talk done, right? Let us put our monies where our mouths run when the few excel. And Roger said we must continue to make serious investment in our people. We cannot continue to say let's invest in infrastructure and for development, and the people which should be your biggest resource is left behind. Certainly, you, they have to correlate. They have to correlate. And I want to thank you folks for being
I
part
will
of
say
this
one thing
program.
before I go that might
Let
get
me
me in
hear it.
trouble, but I will say it. As the people who on top, and some people may agree with me, if it's specific athlete. We love Kirani. They will do everything to get him to a certain place. So they should be able to take the same effort and the same um, um, financial money that they may use to get him to certain areas. They should do it for the other athletes. Kirani is up here already. We don't need another Kirani, but we need another Anazio, and we need some of them young ladies that coming up that making their name. Let us get their name now. Kirani really made his name. It is time to hear a different name in Grenada, and still keep Kirani there as a foundation, but get a different names going that could also make Grenada proud, and they can put the money and the time and the effort in them.
Yeah, well, that is for the coaches, because as we said, you know, Kirani was a start. Even before Kirani, we had Arlene, Francis, and others. But
Francis, yeah.
what we need to do is to have people who can always fill in. Um, After Kirani, in terms of 400 meters, male 400-meter runners, you know, as they say, we covered there, you know,
Yeah.
and there goes the talk, you know, about our coaches sometimes. Where is the foundation? Where is where's your plan then?
What's the
You
plan?
know, where's the plan? Because yes, here was Kirani, talented, blah blah blah. Okay, Kirani is out there and he's up there, but who is coming in? Because Kirani can decide, I have won everything from junior to senior, you
Yep.
know, and it's time for me to call it quit. What we'll do now, go starting, we should have somebody fitted in. Mind you, the same was said for Jamaica in terms of sprinting, but we are
Yep.
seeing that there are young sprinters who are, you know, filling in. They have a long way to go,
Yeah,
but
they have a long way to go. Yeah.
certainly a long way to go, but you're seeing what is happening, okay?
Yeah.
And that is why it's important that we have structures in place to ensure that when Nazio move out of the CARIFTA age group, both
Somebody else can
Nazio
fill
and
the gap.
right, both
Somebody else can
Nazio
fill the gap.
and
Yeah.
both Nazio and Shavin, for example, their final CARIFTA games, they moved out. We have others who are actually
To
filling
fill,
in.
to fill the gap. Yeah.
We haven't seen that in under 17. Certainly, we haven't seen it in under 17. So we have some way to go. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is why we say we have to have the structure in place. We have to have the plan, and we should be seeing the results coming with terms of and things like that. So, hopefully, right? Hopefully. Fernando, your want to hear from you your final comments before we wrap up.
I could barely hear you, Mike.
Yeah, I was saying your comments, your final comments before we wrap up. Final comments.
Well, like I said, once again, I just would like to congratulate the entire character team. They did a fabulous job for us. They represented well, you know, and I hope to see more of these young athletes showcasing their natural talent in next year CARIFTA, Wits and Tides, Junior World Games, in every possible meet they can go. I hope they can actually go out there, and I just can't congratulate them enough and let them know how proud I am of the job they did representing Grenada.
Mm-hmm. All right. My final comment here is coming from Cliff Depredini saying, my wife and I contributed over 400 cleats to athletes in Grenada. Today, cannot tell if what we contributed is left in an unattended shelf somewhere. And you see, there lies the problem. We have people out there who are willing to assist, who always providing support.
But who is in charge of it?
But I'm saying here lies the problem. Now, Deputy is saying here it is, contributed, his family, his wife, he and his wife made that contribution, but he cannot say what is the status of it, you know, in terms of who benefited from it, etc., etc. And that's the problem. We have people out in the diaspora who are willing to assist,
Willing to support.
So
Yeah.
it comes back to the point we're making: structure. If we have proper structures in place, I am certain our athletes, our associations, and sports in general will benefit. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for being part of our program.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. Roger is saying Eastern Sam on the 17, 10, 9, 7, 100. Oh, and Telemark on the 20, 10, 9, 3, 200 meters, 21, 6 to 4. That was some of the results. I think, Fernando, you were referring to that earlier. And here they are, coming up in terms of some of the outstanding performances we had from Intercall. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of the program. Rudian, thank you. Fernando, thank you once again. Roger and his crew, which is Shante and Surana, thank you very much for being part of our program. Other Roger Duncan, always being part of the program. Thank you. Clev and all the others who have always contributed to our program. Richard Mona, I saw your comments. Thank you once again. Pierre, that's Richard Pierre, and Natalie Yari as well, who have made some contributions to tonight's program. Simon Ross, I haven't forgotten you. Nina Alana. John, the mom of Nazio John. Nazio, who was also on our program earlier. I want to thank you very much. Thank you again, Rudian, and hope to see you in another program.
Thanks, man. Continue the show. Continue everything that you're doing. We just hope it goes to the right edgerum.
Well, hopefully too. I'm hopeful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So, folks, I want to thank you very much for all that you have contributed to tonight's program. Lee Coffee, yes. Akiel Francis, that's the name. I know the name. 1087. Okay. So certainly, there's been and the results are there, folks. If you want the results are there. We have talent. Yeah? We have lots of talent. We just need to harness the talent and ensure that we give them, put them on the right track and give them the necessary, space and the necessary encouragement and all that comes with it. Folks, thank you once again for being part of our program. Just a note that our next program, hopefully, we'll have the sports minister of the Bahamas. He had agreed to be on our program. He should have been on the program tonight, but he asked if he can come on to another time because there's a special ceremony tonight for the swimmers, the CARIFTA swimmers in the Bahamas. And there's also a Bahamian NBA player who is in Bahamas tonight and wants to meet with the minister. So certainly, as I indicated at the start, the Bahamas has intentions of hosting, well, they have made an application to be the permanent home for the World Athletics Relays. And the Bahamas has been awarded the 2023 Games, which is the 50th CARIFTA Games, and it's happening at the time that Bahamas celebrating their 50th anniversary. So it's a big event inside of another event. So all roads lead to the Bahamas, NASA the Bahamas. April 8th to the 10th, 2023. Book that on your calendar. Start looking for accommodation. Well, it's too early for flights. I think probably in another 3 weeks you can start booking your flights. But the earlier, the better. If you don't have a visa and you hope to pass through Miami or somewhere, try getting your visa. If not, keep in touch with Roger Duncan and Roger Augustine and Steve Duncan as well, because those guys start organizing. They say, hey, at least 14, a minimum of 14, we have a charter flight from Grenada, directly from Grenada to the Bahamas. Stay in touch and we'll keep you informed of all that's happening regarding that. I think it's a wonderful idea. We need to have support around Team Grenada. Thank you very much for being part of our program. It's always a pleasure having you to talk sports, and it's my invitation to join me for our next program, and I'll let you know when it is. Thank you very much. Good night.